All this money's coming into the LLC in New Mexico. And because it's disregarded, you don't have a tax filing for it. And so our goal is to make sure that the income for this whole business stays less than $12,000. Ideally zero.
Yeah, I
Okay,
would need
ideally
zero.
zero. So when all the money comes in, right, there's a form called a W-8BEN form for foreign contractors. I'll send it to you afterwards. I use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're basically do with that form is you tell the US government that, hey, I didn't make all this money. I paid it all to a contractor overseas. So don't charge me taxes on it. Here's their information. And so you will basically take this company and it will pay you in Portugal. You will fill out the W-8BEN form and your tax liability will effectively be zero in the US. But the gray area is that, we were trying to figure out if you actually had to do a filing, but because it's disregarded,
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do. So the thing you want to be careful with, though, is if you have it, pay it to your Portuguese. If you have a Portuguese company, from my research in Portugal, tax rates are higher in Portugal than they are in the US.
So you finally started your own business. Invest for the long term, and I'll show you exactly how. Be good to future you. What are we going to figure out today?
Okay, so I don't know if you read a little bit what I wrote on the application.
Yeah.
But general, I created a company in the US. I am not a resident. I don't live in the US. And it looked like it's possible. And I did it just because of the reason that I wanted. I have online business. I do coaching. I have online courses. And always not having Stripe is a pain in the ass. Is a horrible pain in the ass if you want to charge online.
Yep.
And most
Payment
of the
processing.
countries have access to it. Most of the people cannot, and they use PayPal. PayPal is tremendously glitchy, and they absolutely don't recommend it for recurring payments. It just suddenly stop, and they retain your money. It's horrible. So that journey took me to okay, you can have PayPal. I watch in YouTube. You can have Stripe and business PayPal and everything if you create an LLC in the US and you don't need to be resident. So I studied the process. Looks like it's possible. So I did it. I created.
Okay.
And I created with a company that's called Zen Business. And
Okay.
basically that's all, because I feel like I did it. I have Stripe right now. But now I feel a little bit on the void, in the in a room, in a new room, but in total darkness, because Zen Business, what they do is just, okay, the business is open, and you as a non-resident, cool. We did everything. We help you. Now you have a EIN number.
Yes.
So it's all good. Bye,
Yeah, exactly.
And then I say, wow, what about taxes? What about everything? What they say, and the rumors, YouTube rumors, I would say, because I haven't read a proper documents about it, or a proper person, maybe like you, to help me with a proper information. But many people say that actually people who are non-resident can pay no taxes at all, because they say, if you don't make money in the US and you don't have customer from the US and you don't even live in the US, they say like, yeah, you don't pay federal taxes, and then you can choose the state that is better for you. And I choose New Mexico because I read was the best. Okay. So you pay none. And basically you potentially, and this is what I read in one place, you need to pay taxes in your own country. So there is a lot of confusion. I think there is a lot of clarity online on how to create an LLC as a non-resident. A lot of clarity, a lot of YouTubers. Yeah. But then what's happened after? Nobody have idea about it.
Yep.
And you don't want to have problems with United States of America, especially taxes wise, right?
Yes, I completely understand where you're coming from. All right. So first of all, I want to talk about how to form a company in the United States, because a lot of people ask me that. So when you did it with a company, there are companies out there that exist like Zen that will help you get everything set up. But the long and short of it is that if you live outside of the country, you have to first get an address in the United States.
Right.
Yep. Right. Exactly. And so a lot of people either use a company like you did, or they will use like how do I want to put it? Mail forwarding company. Right? A virtual address. And that's what I use for a lot of my companies, a virtual address. And anyone can get a virtual address, but there's one like little hiccup in there. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because I want to ask you about it, is when you're getting a virtual address, you have to get a form notarized for the post office. It's a form that allows them to accept mail on your behalf. And people from outside the country can notarize that form. They just have to use their passport or their ID from their country. and they can get it done. Was that been your experience? Did you have to do that?
I did it. I did it with iPostal One that was suggested, and they put me in contact with a company, legal company, and I talked with a guy, and I needed to show some stuff, and then they authorized the thing and was all set. So this company, the iPostal One, just put me in contact with them, and it took some time. You know, it was like, oh, this paper is not good. I need the other paper, blah blah blah. It took some time. It was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it flew. It flew at some point well.
Cool. Yeah, so there's that way to do it, yeah, of course, which works. There's also some companies that will do an online notary, and all you have to do is show your ID. You can do it on your webcam, and they'll help you sign it digitally, which is great. Okay, so now you have an address in the United States that's not a PO box. Now you can go form an LLC. Now you can go get a business bank or an EIN. Because you have an address. You use that address for everything, and it was probably pretty straightforward after that to set up the LLC.
Right.
Awesome. Okay. So now you have an LLC in one of the states in the United States, New Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You got your EIN. You were able to open up a business bank account in New Mexico.
By the way, a little parenthesis. I also was needed at some point to have a US number because you get some texts and to activate stuff, and they suggest that you take the number in the same state that you want to open the LLC. And actually Skype offered there's a bunch of companies, but Skype offered a great service. You choose any country, you pay monthly very little, and then you have a number. And I can get text message and calls in my phone here in Portugal. If I have Wi-Fi, I get a call from the US, for example, to my US number. By the way, there's some companies that ask you the social security number, and this is what we don't have.
Yes.
So at some point PayPal asked me, so I don't know how people do it with PayPal, but at some point PayPal asked me social security number, and I think TransferWise also asked me social security number to send me the physical card. Until I found Mercury Bank. It's a startup, it's a badass startup, it's pretty, it's amazing. One of my favorite podcasters, Naval Ravikant, invest on that company. They treat me so well. The customer service is outstanding, and they have an easy app to use, and it's just so cool. I love Mercury Bank.
I use them as well.
And amazing.
Yeah, they're great. They're easy and they're free. But you mentioned the phone number. Yep, you can get one through PayPal. You can get one through other places. Even Google, you can get a number through. But you just need a US-based number in the same state. You're right. And to get the Social Security number, you wouldn't really get a Social Security number. You would fill out a form SS4, which was probably wrapped up within the company formation stuff with that other company. But the SS4 allows you to be a foreign person to get a taxpayer ID number that can be used in place of a Social Security number or a TIN.
Right.
Which is great. So now you have the number. You're able to get an EIN. You have the company set up. You have a phone number. You have a virtual address. Like, okay, cool. You're ready to go, United States.
Exactly.
Like, well done. That's really cool. Yeah, good for you for figuring that out, Sebastian. Like, most people struggle with that. And, dude, that's so cool. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So now you have this online business that you're doing, and this was also that you could have a good American payment processor like Stripe. And but you're selling everything outside the States. Is that correct?
This is one of the questions, because I have a client from all over the world. Some of them are from the US, some of them are from Europe, some of them are from Chile, some of them are from Australia. So what I'm selling is mainly online courses, a membership, online courses, and one-to-one sessions, So this was one of the questions, because it's not a company that is based on the US and all the customers are some customers. And this is when things get a little bit, I don't know, maybe mixed up and complicated. Some of the customers are from the US.
Okay. So that was my next question, because if some of the customers are from the US, it changes everything. I had this conversation with my CPA, who's also my business partner. His name is Steven. And we work really closely together. And I was talking about this very thing with him the last time we met. I was like, I really want to teach people how to form companies in the United States so that they can take advantage of everything. And then we started talking about the tax implications. Now, I'm not a CPA or an enrolled agent. And so there's a lot of gaps in my knowledge about the tax system. I rely on experts just like a lot of other successful business owners. So
Right.
let me text Steven and see if he can join us and answer our questions directly, because that would be really cool.
Oh, that would be so epic. Yeah.
So while I'm texting him and waiting him to come to get back to me, we'll try calling him in a sec. I'm really curious about what kind of business you're in, because you do coaching and you help people from all over the world. So can you tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about your business? I'm really curious.
Well, I am a yoga teacher,
Okay.
and I'm from yoga teacher. I moved to a yoga philosophy teacher because that's one of my main passions, studying ancient mysticism of yoga, tantra, the Tao in China. I'm very nerd on that philosophy of understanding the nature of life
Okay. Oh yeah.
and
I love
how
that.
we can find happiness and suffer less and all of that, but in a very applicable way of our modern lifestyle that involves relationship, business, banks, accounts, sex, and everything, so we
Yep.
can apply ancient spirituality, ancient philosophy, ancient spiritual philosophy, and mysticism into our daily life. And this is what I have been doing in teaching philosophy, specifically in yoga teacher training programs
Okay.
and in workshops and in retreats. I used to live in Bali, so I was running retreats there and teaching there as well. And then with COVID, I wanted to bring everything online. So I tried to figure out what I'm going to do.
Okay.
So the first thing I did, it was just a simple online course. It based on Tantra, which is one of the ancient Hindu systems of spirituality, and which is how to apply that into relationships, into intimacy with life and with your partner and with yourself and so on. And then I wanted to start making something more accessible to people,
Okay.
which is in terms of price and also ongoing, because I felt as a digital entrepreneur, what I do, sometimes I run a launch, I do a course, the course finish, and I feel naked again.
Ah.
So then I see all these successful businesses are all membership based. Netflix, Gaia is in my niche, is like the Netflix of spirituality. Gaia, and of course Uber and whatever, is based on membership. So I have this dream of recurring revenue as a business through a membership that I can teach all of this stuff and have guest teachers. But at the same time, it's really cool for my audience because people pay so little and they get all this content. And also they are forced or seduced to every month keep up their work, their meditation, their yoga.
Yes. It's accountability.
So it's like, yeah, it's accountability. So at some point I realized this, oh my God, this is so good. And I asked some of my friends are like, yeah, but membership sucks, because they told me this. Because number one, you need to be working all the time. Number two, you get a lot of very little money for all the work, and mainly that. And I completely disagree, because
I
first
disagree
of all,
as
you
well.
always be working because it's what I love, and I love to work in what I love, and I love my work. I work my love, And the other reason is like, yeah, they pay little, but what if you have 1,000 people paying you whatever, $40 a month?
Recurring revenue is one of the most powerful factors. In the United States, a business is valued based on a couple different things. But if you have one-time revenue, you could get a fair multiple, maybe 3 to 5 times. But if you have recurring revenue, the multiple that your business is valued at goes up to like 7, 8, 9, almost 10 times sometimes. Recurring revenue is where it's at. So that being said, Steven just joined us. I'm going to let him in, and let's get your tax question answered by a pro.
Cool. Amazing.
Gentlemen.
Oh, thanks for joining us, man. It was such a random little turn of events, but we really need an expert in here because I'm not an expert in this field. So, Sebastian, would you mind if I gave him just a quick breakdown of what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Sebastian is an online yoga teacher. He's created a successful business, and he sells all over the world, in Chile and Portugal and, South America and also the United States. And so he's taken all the steps to form a business in New Mexico. U.S. number, he's got a taxpayer ID, he's got a bank account with Mercury, he's got an LLC set up, and he's selling all over the world, but he wants to know what his tax implications are in the U.S. because there's not a lot of good information out there. So can you help us understand it better?
Yeah, for sure. So by doing business in the US, you are required to file a US based tax return. Now, US is a little different than most countries in the fact that when you file a US based tax return, they make you recognize your income worldwide on that US based tax return. And then they give you a foreign tax credit. So they give you a credit for taxes paid in other countries, right? And so most likely how it's going to work is the income that's generated from New Mexico or from the US based business. How much are you typically running through the US? How much in sales typically in US dollars?
How much in sales I'm making?
Yeah, within the US specifically.
Okay, so that's tricky because first of all, this is starting. I'm just starting this company. I was just
cool.
selling online courses here and there, and I'm expecting, without being optimistic or pessimistic, maybe in the next year start making 60,000, something around that in US dollars. But many of them is going to be from European clients, Australian clients, and some of them will be US clients. So I think this is the tricky part.
Yeah. So the portion that's just subject to the US, that's where you got to get really clear is what portion is just subject to the US based taxes, because you're most likely going to have to do the same thing in Europe and the same thing in the other countries that you operate out of as well. You'll have to file tax returns in those countries, and then you're going to generate a tax payment in those countries that will then be applied to the tax payment within the US as well. Does that make sense?
So I need to fill out these forms on all these different countries where my customers are?
If you have,
you know what the threshold is, Stephen? Like in terms of income?
Tax returns?
Yeah.
So it's like $12,000. If you make an income, you typically have to file a US based tax return. Now, being a foreigner operating within the US, theoretically you're selling an online product. You don't truly have Nexus, but you have the LLC form for the US based business, right?
Right. And what I knew and the research that I did, a lot of information on the internet, but I don't know how level of how reliable they are. It says that the only pay that I would pay the main taxes, I'm guessing the federal taxes, are if I am either living in the US or I am making the income is coming. I mean, the business is operating in the US. It's like my clients are from the US and everything. So I am not a resident, so I'm not living in the US. I think they say like 6 months. If you spend more than 6 months, then you are in. Then you do the whole thing as a US resident. But I was researching this because many people, they say like it's a good thing to do as a foreigner because you can skip a lot of taxes by not living there.
So the only way you would actually have to do everything that I just said is if you have what's called Nexus within the US. And because you're just straight up online, I don't think you have to do anything.
Right.
It would just be based on where you're located. So in Portugal, you'd have your Portuguese income that you'd have to recognize the income from. You're not shipping products. I don't think you have to do anything. The only thing that's a cause of concern for me is you having that LLC within the States. And that might trigger some additional thing. Because if you then have that LLC within the United States and then you have income going into that LLC within the US,
it could be viewed as you making sales in a foreign country as a US based entity.
Yeah.
Which could trigger a nexus. Yeah.
Because how it should be working right now, and what I would think it should be working. You have your Mercury account. Your Mercury account is based off of your business in Portugal, and so it's tied directly to your Portuguese business. People make a payment, and then when you send an invoice to a U.S.-based individual, that payment then gets converted to Portuguese money and dropped into your account.
The Mercury Bank, I opened it just because my LLC is in the US. Okay. So my Mercury data is business data because it's a business account and the business is a US based business. Yeah. There's nothing to do with Portugal. And actually right now I'm living in Portugal, but my residency also is a thing because I'm not living in Chile. I'm full-time nomad, I'm not spending 3 months anywhere, and actually some people take kind of taxes advantage by doing that as well. And this is a thing, because so many digital nomads right now are like, okay, what is your resident? I read that if you are, because my partner is from the US, So I was telling her, what if you make the LLC in the US and you are not living in the US? Therefore, what if you make residency in somewhere else and then you step doing the whole taxes thing in the US, as same as I am doing, or I'm trying to do at least. And then we read, and the US is the only country, looks like, that if you're born in the US and you have US passport, then you're done. No matter where you live, no matter what you do, no matter how much you travel, no matter if you don't live any in the US any day in the year, you're still doing the whole US taxes and legal process there, you know? So for me now, for what I know, yeah, I am Chilean. I am some kind of resident in Chile, even though I haven't been there in a while, and I will need to do the taxes there.
Yeah.
Now, there's still some other payments I read that if it's true, if we start from the basis that what you say, like I don't need to do anything because I don't have nexus, and this would be like the gray area, the nexus part. But then it's still another cost that people say, like to have an LLC, you need to pay an annual fee in your state, but New Mexico have zero annual fee. Actually, that's why I choose it, because I could have chosen any of them.
Yeah.
Now, Stephen, is there an option to collect all the money as a U.S.-based entity and then pay that money to a foreign contractor using a foreign contractor W-9 form?
Yeah, exactly.
And then show zero?
W-8, W-8 BEN is what that foreign contractor is. So, and that's exactly what I would do. Because the thing is, you setting up that LLC in the US and then having the Mercury account tied to that LLC and then having all the income go into that LLC, in my opinion, that's establishing nexus within that state and generating the income based off that LLC, right? If you just left it as a Portuguese or Chilean or whatever it is business, and then you had your customers paying directly to that business, that customer that's paying directly in is paying a foreign person for that activity. Then you would have no reason to file a US based return. But by having that LLC with the Mercury account and having people pay into that LLC, I would think you'd be establishing nexus within that state. And then you'd be required to file the US based return for that entity. And then, but like Evan was saying, you could turn around and just pay all of it out to your Portuguese company as basically a contractor payment. And so then the net income of that business is zero. You'd still have to file a business return if we chose to file it as, and this is where it gets complex, because if it's what's called a disregarded entity, meaning you're the only owner of it and it just goes directly to you would then be required to file a US based return, depending on income levels.
Type of entity, 0.9a in the SS4, it says other and then say disregarded.
Okay, so it's disregarded entity. So there's no filing requirements for it.
Okay, so Sebastian, let's tie this up really quick. So basically, all this money's coming into the LLC in New Mexico. And because it's disregarded, you don't have a tax filing for it. And so our goal is to make sure that the income for this whole business stays less than $12,000, ideally zero.
Yeah.
Okay. Ideally zero. So when all the money comes in, right, there's a form called a W-8 BEN form for foreign contractors. I'll send it to you afterwards. I use it all the time. Mm-hmm. And what you basically do with that form is you tell the U.S. government that, hey, I didn't make all this money. I paid it all to a contractor overseas. So don't charge me taxes on it. Here's their information. And so you will basically take this company and it will pay you in Portugal. You will fill out the W-8 BEN form and your tax liability will effectively be zero in the U.S. But the gray area is that, we were trying to figure out if you actually had to do a filing, but because it's disregarded,
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do. So the thing you want to be careful with though, is if you have it pay it to your if you have a Portuguese company, from my research in Portugal, tax rates are higher in Portugal than they are in the U.S. So you would actually be paying more taxes on Portuguese income if it's paid directly to Portuguese. Your best bet is to do what you're doing and move every 3 months to different countries and go all over the place. And then just have your Mercury account that's tied to basically the lowest tax rate country, right? Because do you ever file taxes in any country as you've been traveling around?
No, that's the thing, because when I started this business, I started running courses. I just in the clouds, and I was thinking how long this will last, because at some point I will need to set my company,
Yeah.
And this is when like even content just came from the heaven to my phone. So I started and I created a PayPal account to receive money. And this PayPal account is from Chile, but PayPal and Chile is not very advanced technologically with terms of digital nomad stuff. So they don't know what the hell is going on. I think they're way more dumb than the US. The US want to have everything clear and want to control everything. It's the country of freedom, right? But they keep you very close of what you're doing,
Yeah.
In Chile, they have no idea. They don't have much technology.
Yeah.
So what I get money from to PayPal, and from PayPal I transfer to even from PayPal I pay people, I pay cars, I pay tickets from PayPal. So even it's like the money is not even reaching a Chilean bank account. And sometimes I move some money to the Chilean bank account, $2,000 here, $2,000 there. And they ask me a little bit of commission, and nobody asked me anything. The tax company in Chile is not asking me anything. So I was thinking, well, is this scalable? And I was planning just to keep doing that until something happened,
Yeah.
But until I realized that PayPal sucks for recurring payments. So I wanted to Stripe, and to have a Stripe, I need to have an LLC, and to have an LLC, I needed to do all the things. But then I realized that it's not so bad. It's not so complicated, and actually very helpful as a foreigner, as a non-resident in the US, to have an LLC based in the US. So therefore I opened it. The process of opening it was, I needed to study a little bit. And this is what we were talking with Ivan at the beginning. But then this is the moment that when I already set up the LLC, okay, it's happening. Cool. I can receive payments on Stripe. Now what, And I could keep going like this until but I'm scared, I'm scared of the US, basically.
Yeah.
I'm scared of at some point I get like an email or something. It's like, dude, you have a company here. You need to pay taxes, or you need to pay whatever. And I don't know what I need to do,
So what's going to happen on the LLC side is when you run your payments through Stripe and you do all that, Stripe is going to give your business what's called a 1099. 1099K, I believe is what they send your business. And so through that 1099, that's going to be reported to the IRS. That's the Internal Revenue Service in the US, right? That's going to trigger them to be looking for those amounts on a tax return. And so, like, for example, if you run 60 grand through Stripe, the IRS is going to see that you made $60,000 through Stripe, but they're not going to see any of the expenses associated with it. So that would then lead me back to the issue of it might be a good idea to have you file. Well, I would think you should file within the US as a foreigner, and then file all your expenses associated with it. So it's going to drop to zero and you're going to report zero, but the IRS is going to see your income statement, right? They're going to see you had $60,000 come in. They're going to see that you had these expenses, and they're going to see the remainder transferred out and paid to this foreign contractor. So they'll see a net income of zero.
I think that's the safest bet.
I do too.
For that, I need a company though in other country.
No, not necessarily. You can pay it to yourself. You can pay it directly to you.
Oh, you can pay to yourself. Mm-hmm. This is what Ivan, you told me. This is what you're gonna send to me.
Yeah,
I can pay myself, and then I have.
Yeah, it's a W-8BEN form, and you'll basically fill out your personal information, Sebastian, and it will change with each country that you're in every couple months. Mm-hmm. And your U.S. company will submit that to the IRS when it files taxes for $0 every year. And so that way the IRS knows that all your money was spent on foreign contractors and you don't have any retained earnings to pay taxes on.
Yep. So that leads me to how we want to file, because theoretically, we could set it up as a C-Corp, file it as a C-Corp every year, and just pay it all out to you. Then there's no individual filing that we'd have to do. Because so the U.S. government would not even know that you're there.
So if I would need to change it to a C-Corp.
You don't have to do anything. We file it with the actual tax return. So we would file what's called an 8329. I don't know what the form is off the top of my head. Let me see. LLC to C-Corp. It is my kid jacked around with my keyboard. Now it's all wobbly.
My dude do it all the time. Yeah, basically what he's saying, Sebastian, is that when he files the taxes, there's an additional form that he includes, which will file your taxes as a C-Corp. instead of a disregarded LLC. And by doing so, it separates out the entities even further. They wouldn't even know about you because a C Corp's on its own. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
A disregarded LLC, though, has to be tied to a person's tax return. Okay, because someone has to show ownership of it. However, when it's a corporation, an LLC taxed as a corporation, at least, it's its own completely new thing. It just is.
But I don't need to change the structure with the IRS of my company?
We will need to change the structuring with the IRS, but we do it when we file. So we file a certain form with the initial tax return. And the S corporation form is a 2553, but the C corporation is an 8832. That's what it is. So a form 8832 is to be converted from an LLC to a C corporation. Okay?
And you do it that once.
Yep, you just do it once. Yep, just once. And then it converts to a C corporation. And then from that standpoint, we just got to make sure that that C corporation drops to zero every single year.
So now that we know the overarching, like the method of how to do it, practically, how do you put this into play? Who is he looking for in the States to help him file these returns, Stephen?
I mean, you can really use whoever's cheapest. Our tax firm, you could do it actually, I don't know if you could do it yourself through TurboTax. I don't know if TurboTax does C corporations. We have a minimum of $1,200 per C corporation that we file. It's not a complex C corporation. It's gonna be very straightforward, very easy to file. It's pretty much whatever you run through Stripe is gonna be on this C corp. And so Stripe will give you the 1099 K at the end of the year. We report that as your income, and then we report your expenses to you pulling it all out. Now, the big thing is we want to make sure that the cash flow follows the expenses. So I expect the balance of that C corporation at the end of the year to be zero.
Yeah, basically, Sebastian, if your 1099K shows that you made $90,000 or $100,000 with Stripe, they took their fees and they paid you $90,000. You need to make sure that your W-8 BEN form shows $90,000 going out to you, so it nets zero.
Okay, so the money would need to be proof that all the same amount of money come out and it's paying somebody from my account. But I need some kind of like a receipt or how they will know that.
Just generate an invoice.
Scan my account.
Yeah, do an invoice. An invoice from you to the C corporation.
Yep. So like
Sebastian is going to give an invoice to your LLC in the States. And then
it's just the paper of the invoice, or the money actually needs to come out?
The money actually needs to follow. You need to actually move the money.
Okay. So I can move it to another whatever account that I have.
Yep.
You move it to your individual account. Yeah. I will honestly, if you're running the Nomad thing and you're jumping all over the place, can you do a Mercury account to an individual? I don't know if you can. Can you? You can.
I think it's not possible.
LLC. Okay.
Yeah, it has to have an EIN tied to it.
Okay. So that's going to be your best. Yeah, what you should do is just transfer all the Bitcoin and just own it all.
I can do
cryptocurrencies.
yeah.
And just like hold it all.
I can do it
individually.
TransferWise. I have TransferWise individual. TransferWise have individual and business.
Okay.
Yeah,
that'll work.
So I would transfer it to just an individual account that just follows you. And God, dude, that sucks. I wish there was some sort of like individual account that would just tie to your social and you'd be able to bounce wherever and it wouldn't be. But then again, that's probably why they don't do that. So
yeah. I would go in a really low tax country with a bank account and then send it over there, convert it to Bitcoin immediately, and then send the Bitcoin.
Yeah. That's what I would do.
Bitcoin's really easy to move and it's really cheap.
Yeah, and if you don't have a nexus, you don't have any taxes on whatever you move.
The important thing though, Sebastian, is that do not leave money in the U.S. account long term, because if it's left there, you'll owe some taxes on it.
Yeah, because the thing that we do when we file those tax returns, what we do is we get the bank account statements, the bank statements from you, and we reconcile it against what we're doing with the P&L. So if we show a zero net income on that business return because everything was paid out, I expect your bank balance at the end to be zero in order for it to tie out.
And then I'm guessing savings account doesn't count. If I'm moving from my main account, what is the name, to my savings account, that doesn't count. It's still in there.
Yeah, it would still be in that secret. So I want it completely out of that LLC, right? Transferred out pull it into your either your outside of the U.S. business bank accounts, wherever it is, just so that return at the end of the year is zero every single time.
Got it.
Okay.
Can be even cash out.
Yeah. But then it has to be reflected on that invoice, right? So your invoice that you send in needs to be reflected for the payment.
Right.
Are you familiar with putting together invoices, Sebastian?
No, I have no idea. And this is a question that I wanted to, because now theoretically I understand, but practically how somebody can help me to do this and when.
So an invoice is just a simple piece of paper. Like you could go onto a Google Doc and write Sebastian Valenci charges this American corporation $90,000 for services rendered or management fees. And then you just email it, or you just keep a copy of it and put it in a folder. And at the end of the year, you will provide that to your tax preparer. And that's the proof that you charge that company. An invoice is just like a receipt that anyone can make. You can make an invoice for anything, for any amount, for any person, to anyone.
Right. But I don't need to pay myself all the time. I move money or I take out money, right? Can I do it once or?
You can do it once, or you can do it incrementally, as long as the total amount comes out to $0 before you file taxes.
Okay, got it. Even if it's just a week before filing taxes, the money suddenly disappear and I have the file and the invoice. Okay, cool.
Yep. And the thing is, at the end of the day, even if it turns out that you leave a little bit in there, it's not going to be a huge effect, right? You'll just have to pay corporate taxes on that amount that's left in there, which if you just leave a couple $100 in there, it's not going to be substantial. It'll be really, really small.
Okay. Which percentage is that, corporate taxes, if there's?
So it's in the process of being changed right now. Currently it's 21%, but it's in the process of getting changed. I mean, if Congress here in the US ever pulls their heads out of their asses, then maybe it'll change this year, but we don't know.
And which time, there is a date in the year that you need to file these taxes?
Yes. So for a C corporation, it is April 15th.
Okay. You, Steven, have a company that you help people to do this stuff.
Yes, so we do. It's called Creative Advising, and we run tax preparation services for a variety of people. And we do C corporations, S-Corps, LLCs, individuals. Yep, partnership.
Got it.
My taxes.
Got it. Yeah, because at some point I will need some help with all of this. Yeah. I mean, it's cool to have the understanding, but then doing it, especially at the beginning, I think I will need some extra support.
I agree with you, Sebastian.
It's going to be surprisingly simple.
Amazing.
Now, the one thing is like you could do it through TurboTax. I just don't know. I don't know if you legitimately can do a C corporation through TurboTax.
TurboTax is a company in the US that's really popular and common for people to file their taxes online on their own.
Yeah.
Is what he's getting at, in case you're not familiar with TurboTax. But I mean, in the end, Sebastian, if I put myself in your shoes, to be honest with you, Sebastian, I would just pay an expert like Steven who already understands the situation, and you get what you pay for. It might cost you an extra $500 to $1,000, but to have everything wrapped up in a nice little package and to have the peace of mind, it's worth it, in my opinion.
Right. Short little questions. I read somewhere about specific declarations. I have no idea, but probably Steve, you can give me a little explanation that was relevant for me. 1120 and 5472.
Okay, so the 1120 is that C corporation that we've been talking about.
Okay.
So that's the filing for the business. And what was the other one? The
5472.
Let me do some research on that. I got to look into that. I haven't looked into that much.
And the third and last one that somebody mentioned me, I think somewhere, was 1040 NR.
Yeah, so 1040 non-resident is what that is. And that's basically the foreign filing requirement within the US. Now, if you don't have that nexus within the US, then we wouldn't have to file it.
Well, we know the nexus thing is the little fluffy gray area that is important to. I think we will need to research more.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna have to look into that more, because the 5472 is basically the foreign. the foreign-owned U.S. corporation form that we have to file with it. And I'm curious what they look for on it.
Okay, so we have the overarching understanding of what needs to be done, and we know kind of how to implement it. And we also know that there's a few other things that we have to research to make sure the whole package is tightened up.
Yeah.
Okay. Progress, though, Sebastian. I think we figured some stuff out.
Yeah.
Definitely there's some clarity.
Foreign tax returns within the U.S. are on the more complex side. And it's a side that I haven't had a massive amount of exposure to. And so I'll have to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of research, but we'll make sure to get you lined out correctly for sure.
If we can't help you, we'll find someone that can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Thank you so much, because I think this is great for me and also great for you guys, because I feel like there is more and more, especially with this COVID thing, everyone wants to be online, receive payments from all the world, and then, an LLC in the US, it's very, I'm seeing more and more friends doing it, and more people will keep doing it. They're not residents, because it looks very simple. Now what's come after is when comes experts like you guys that can support people and give them advice and grow your own business doing that as well. So I think can be an epic win-win-win.
Yeah, no,
I agree,
absolutely.
man.
I've seen it more and more as well with people going overseas and starting businesses and traveling all over the place. And I've been getting these questions I've been getting them more and more as time goes on, especially through COVID. So
thanks for joining us, Steven, man. It's such
absolutely.
a huge help.
Thanks for calling in.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited. People are going to learn so much from this. I learned so much from this. Holy cow.
I love it. And yeah, just keep in mind, it's a always changing, always shifting environment, especially within COVID. And so, yeah, dude, it's always good to make sure that you do it right and you keep it above board.
Solid voice. Solid advice.
Thank you so much, guys, for your time, for your content, for your advice, everything. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you need anything else, just let me know.
Thank you, Steven.
Thank
you, Ivan.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Have a great day.
See you guys soon. Ciao.